everyone, Kristy here with you today with a new coloring tutorial, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is coloring hair. But today we're going to talk about something that I actually couldn't believe when I checked out our YouTube that I hadn't covered before, which is coloring curly hair. So for this tutorial I'm going to be using the digi stamp that I've got right here, which is Tropical Piper. She's got plenty of really pretty hair that we can use to practice on. So that's just what we want. For the tutorial, I'm going to be using the Copic colors that I have listed here, E71, E74, E77, and E79. And I'm going to walk you through step by step of how I like to do it. Now there's a lot of other different techniques out there, so if you find something that works better for you, definitely roll with that, but this is how I like to color curly hair. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, we're going to start out with E74. Scooch these all out of my way. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just look at our image and see the shape of the hair that the lines tell us is here. So obviously it's curly hair, but it's kind of a rounder, fluffy curl. I don't know. I'm sure you kind of get what I mean. So with curly hair, the big difference from straight hair is instead of with straight hair, obviously it's flat, and with curls you're going to have all the different lumps and bumps and things my fingers can't do. So you're going to have lots of different places to play with shadows. And this is what we're going to try to replicate with our coloring. So I'm going to start with E74, and I'm going to use that just to kind of mark in where I want my shadows. Now I'm going to use kind of the same lines that we already have in our picture. We're just going to go in and just kind of mark it in. Now with curly hair especially, we're going to be using the brush tip, and we're going to let it do a lot of the work by making kind of a motion. You can see how that kind of plays off of the line work really well. So we're just going to keep that up until we feel like we've got enough shading. You don't have to be super perfect with this. So just have fun and add a lot of purposeful yet kind of random shapes for you to build off of. Now you notice that on this side I did the upper parts of the curl. This side, since the light's coming kind of differently in, I'm doing the bottom parts. So that's why my shape is kind of going in the other direction, because I'm doing more of the bottom. And just like straight hair, with curly hair you're going to have extra shadows cast by her head, on the back of the hair, and the neck, and things like that. So there's a lot of similarities, even though there's a lot of differences in coloring each one. So for us today, we're having the light source kind of come from this direction. So her head is going to cast a shadow kind of like in this sort of way. So as we get down here, and we can continue to build it up, we're going to add more shadows than we did on top, which means in this stage we're going to be leaving less white space than we did at the top. Now usually I work light to dark, but with this one specifically, I do this because I want to see where I'm gonna build this up and where I want my extra shadows. So I'm kind of doing a slight reversal, and I'm starting with one of my midtones and I'm building it up, and then we're gonna work kind of in the same way. I had to think about it for a hot second. Alright, so you can come back at any time and add more shadows in, so don't think that you're stuck with what you've got. Now I'm going to go down, if we started here, I'm going to go down our color chart to kind of build up these shadows, and then at the end go back in with E71. And what this is going to do is it's going to not double layer your E71, so it will end up being a lighter contrast than it would be if you started using it at the beginning. So we're just going to kind of do the same thing. Now my E77 is like in need of a refill, so I might not use it as much as I would, but this is my favorite color combo for coloring Piper's hair. So that's why I decided to go with it today. Oh, it's like totally angry at me. I didn't realize it was so low. I hate when that happens. You're like, oh, I super need to use this color. Oh, I super can't because it's super dry. This is one of the colors I use really often, so I can't. I was kind of in a state of disbelief when I realized I did not have a refill. Like, how did I not have a refill? So, with the shadows that we put in here in the first part, you've kind of marked out obviously where they are, so you can go in and then kind of find the darker areas, and that's what we're doing with this. We're building them up. You can always tweak them as you go too. If you realize one spot doesn't have enough, you can always add some more. But that first step is really to get yourself grounded so you know where you're going. You can't get there if you don't know where you're going. That's my quote for today. I made that up on the spot. It sounded very, very deep. You can see I'm not really being too, what's the word I want? I've been really horrible coming up with the words I want today. I'm not being a stickler or very particular or specific about where I'm, well, the shapes I'm making or where I'm placing the shadows too much. Because that's the fun of this hair. You can kind of build it up how you like it. Alright. Close lid. We're going to E79 next. We're going to really build up some of these shadows. Now, in this color combo for Piper, it tends to end up being a dark hair color. So if you were coloring something lighter, it might not end up this dark for you. That's kind of a double thing. But anyway, but it never hurts to add more contrast to what you're doing. You can really very easily let the person who's looking at your image know the texture and what you're trying to portray when you give them more cues, more visual cues. And that's what adding all of this shading is about. You're giving those visual cues that will let somebody know what you're trying to get across. I like how I'm saying things that sound super deep today. Yeah, I can't come up with half of the words I want. It's very much a conundrum. And it's not like I haven't had my caffeine for the day either. Building it up. Making the pizza. If you haven't seen that video, it's a funny commercial. It's old. Like super old, but it's funny. Alright. Next we're going to go back to E74 and see if there's spots that we need to add a little more texture before we top it off with E71. Now, even though her hair is going to be dark, I want it to have some shine and stuff, so I don't want to cover everything with darker colors, but since her hair is curly, it'll have more texture, and while it doesn't mean it won't be shiny, a hair that is super straight and smooth will have more shine than a hair that has more texture. So I still want her to have shine, which is what the contrast is going to show, but because of what we just said, that you don't get as much shine because of the hair's texture, we don't want to go too overboard in one direction or the other. If that makes sense, which I hope it does, because it did in my head. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Okay. Now we're going to go to E71. And I'm not going to like color and lay down, you know, such a dark, heavy piece of it. I'm just going to kind of swish it on so it stays thin and contrasty. Now, since it does have more colorless blender in it, which helps make it a lighter color, you may have to go back and touch up some of your shadows, since they might, depending on how much ink you're putting down, they might be slightly blended out. But that's okay. I hate turning pictures around on video, because then you guys got to look at it all upside down. But man, I would have turned this thing around 800 times by now if I wasn't coloring on a video. Now, the other reason I don't like turning these is because I eventually do have to edit it, edited it, and I get some horrible motion sickness. So it's not only for you, it's for me not ruining my desk. Oh, trust me, it's horrible. As I go along here, now with curly hair, don't worry that you're adding too much texture, but don't add so much texture that you can't tell what you've already gone through and added, if that makes sense. If you want to think of it in terms of a squiggle or a scribble, you scribble just a little, you can see that it's a scribble, but if you scribble and doodle and scribble in the same spot, eventually it's just going to look like a big mass of black, or whatever color you used. But you kind of get what I mean. Don't worry that it's too textury, but don't keep going so far that you end up with something that doesn't resemble what you're going for in the first place. Right. Now you can kind of see the places that you want a little more something something. See, the problem with me doing these videos too is I could now go back and play with this all day long. And it's spring break here and I had to kick the kids outside so I could do this. So, I don't know how much time I have. But you guys gotta get the general idea. While I'm finishing this up, I do want to mention that Some Odd Girl is Some Odd Girl, and you see many of the videos on here from our amazing design team. You can also check me out on my personal blog, which is KristyDahlman.com, and on there I've been doing some different things for, I have a Patreon account which does some exclusive images monthly that are a bit different from what you find in the shop. And I also have a GoFundMe up right now so I can, fingers crossed, upgrade my equipment so I can make things and get things up faster for you guys. So if you can go over, can you believe I missed this whole section this whole time? Jeez, oh Pete's. Anyway, so if you can please hop over there and check it out in your regular blog rounds. Leave me a hello. And if there's any tutorials or anything you'd like to see, definitely leave me a shout out on those as well. Can you believe I did that? How many of you were shouting at the screen the entire friggin' time? You were missing that section! Oh. Makes me look so noob. Drive me crazy. You know I drove somebody crazy, like super crazy with that. Besides myself. Just darkening up this section a little more because like we said, she's going to have a little more shadows down here because of the shadows from the back of the head. We want to reinforce that. And the such and the like. So on that mention of Patreon and stuff, please don't forget to check out Some Odd Girl on Facebook and come see our community. We have challenges and all of that good stuff. And we have a new challenge format starting middle of the month without looking at Facebook. I can't remember the date off the top of my head. I think it's like the 13th. God, don't quote me. But yeah, it'll be something you guys will really like. So please become a member if you haven't already. And I want to see you there. So, Viola, or voila, whichever. That is my technique on coloring curly hair. Obviously you can do this with any color combination that strikes you, or anyone that is your favorite. And I forgot to do this over here. I don't know, you guys just, yeah, there you go. And have a lot of fun with it. You can go in here now and add some highlights with a white pencil or a white pen. You can add some highlight colors. You can do anything you want, just with any other hair texture. It's a lot of fun, and I think I'd kind of probably do it in a different way, so maybe you learned something new. We will see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe. You'll get a nice little click through here at the end. And I hope we'll see you again. Thanks so much for watching.